I'm so excited to be here today. My name is Kat Georges. I'm a co-director of Three Rooms Press. And today we're talking to Erin Wildermuth, who is the author of WOMENTALITY, which, as you can see here, is a great book. It's 13 stories of women from around the world who quit the 9 to 5 and started working for themselves. Nowadays, now that COVID has come into our lives and spent the last couple of years with us, this seems like, oh, it's something people do all the time. They work remotely. But this book was published in 2019, less than 10 months before COVID started. And Erin's here to talk to Emily Smith, our Three Rooms Press publicity associate, and they'll tell you all about it. So I'm going to remove my pen right now. And here is Emily and Erin, and they're going to take it over.
Thanks, Kat. So I have my book with me as well. I'm super excited for this interview. Thank you so much, Erin, for being here. As Kat said, she's the author of WOMENTALITY. So I guess when we get started, would you like to start off by reading a passage from WOMENTALITY?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you. So I chose a passage from the first chapter, and this is Lauren Gerber's story. And I think it really summarizes why people do this and why it's so important to have freedom in your work. So here we go. My life experiences, lessons, and teachings would not amount to me being treated like a child in a company environment. I did not want to be at the mercy of a boss or manager granting me permission to see a doctor. In fact, I did not want to be at the mercy of a boss or manager to micromanage any aspect of my life. I needed things to change.
Thank you. Oh, I love that part. So I guess to get started, my first question I have for you is, how did you choose who would be included in WOMENTALITY? As you said, there's 13 stories. So yeah, I was curious.
So the main thing that I was looking for was variety, because I really wanted any woman to be able to pick up this book, read these stories, and find little tidbits that related to their own path and their own life and the things that they were looking for and why they were looking for them. And so I got a lot of applicants that were writers, which makes sense, right? Because a book, writers. But I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't just any one job path that was represented. I also got a lot of stories from Americans, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just one nationality that was represented, so that this could be kind of a global message for women everywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Because that's what we love about Three Rooms Press. It's from diverse authors and everything like that. That's awesome. So yeah, so I guess my second question is, can you speak a little bit on how you chose to organize the sequence on which these women's stories were shared in the book?
Sure. So I think the two that were most crucial in terms of organization were the first and the last. And I chose the first story because, as I said, I just read that passage. She just did such an excellent job of talking about why. Like, what do we really give up when we give up 8 hours of our day, when we sell our labor to a boss who then tracks our time for so much of the day? What are we giving up? And it's more than just those hours. It's the ability to schedule appointments, the ability to see loved ones, the ability to manage your own day how you see fit. So I thought that was just the best opening. And she opens by talking about seeing this man on the bus and how sad it is to not be in control of your own life. And she explained it so beautifully that I couldn't have done it better. And then our final author was a writer. So I loved that, like having a writer as the final author. She did such a great job. It's beautifully written. You can tell she's a writer. And she really talks about, she's a little further along in her career than the other women were. She was quite successful. And she really talks about the nuts and bolts of being successful. And so I really wanted to end on that note of not only can you do this, but when you do it, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, just being able to live your life how you choose. That's amazing. Like, people get to travel and stuff like that. Like, I was reading a little bit on like what some of the things that you've done. Like you got to travel so many places. Like that's amazing, being able to live your life how you want. It's a good mantra to live by. But oh, so my next question is, how has the internet played a significant role in helping these women pursue their own personal aspirations and achieve this economic independence?
It's huge. It's huge. It's almost, I would say it's necessary, because a lot of how you're able to do this is by directly contacting clients yourself. And so you need to be able to do that in a way that cuts out the middleman and is still affordable. And before the internet, there wasn't really a great way to find clients in an affordable, quick, easily accessible way. Now, with the wake of the internet, there are whole platforms devoted to helping people find clients. And there are also many ways to go about doing it yourself. And so without that, it was harder to cut out the middleman, the employer. Now it's a lot easier, and anyone can do it, as evidenced by these women.
Yeah, definitely. That was well said. I guess we'll move on to my last question. Which of these stories have stuck with you over the years? Because it has been, it was what, like a few years ago, 2019, right before COVID. Not, well, years before.
You know, at different times in my life, I mean, I shouldn't say that since it hasn't been that many years, but a lot's happened in the last couple of years. So when I first published this book, it was the mothers that really resonated with me, because I was a new mom. But then in the wake of COVID, I've come back to Lauren's story because she started out as a work from home employee, and that gave her that taste of freedom. And then she wasn't able to find remote work. So that's how she ended up going to work for herself. But now that opportunity is much more available to people. It's the one silver lining of COVID, is that people don't necessarily have to run their own business in order to gain this type of freedom in their workplace. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, being able to network across different countries and stuff like that too. But yeah, those are my, thank you for coming to the live.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yes, thank you, Kat, for
Thank you. I mean, I had another question too. It's just that this book has really, resonates so well with nowadays. Do you think that now that people have had 2 years of working remotely through COVID, do you think that those skyscrapers and office buildings are going to get filled up again, in your personal opinion?
I don't think everyone is going to be willing to go back.
Right.
I think some people are going to be willing to go back, and all the more power to them. If that's what they want, that's great. I mean, it's all about choice. But I think many people are now saying, oh, you're going back to work? I'm job hunting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for coming with and being on this Facebook Live with us. Again, her book is WOMENTALITY, and this is 13 stories, empowering stories by everyday women who say goodbye to the workplace and hello to their lives. Publishers Weekly called it an inspiring collection that makes a strong case for how women can design their work lives to meet both personal and professional needs. I highly recommend it. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So, and of course, if you go to your local bookstore, you can request it and they can get it. So please get WOMENTALITY, and happy Women's History Month.